This is my 2009 Volvo C70 that I love. I do all my own servicing. Recently, I did a fluid exchange, just only 3 quarts of transmission fluid. And if you own a 2009, looking at it for the first time, it can seem almost impossible. So I figured I'd make a little video to help people out and make this process a little bit easier, because looking at it the first time, it seems almost impossible. I'm a retired automotive service manager. I worked for Volvo for 5 years. I've worked for Toyota. I love this car. This top is down just about every single day and is a hardtop convertible. I'll make other videos about it. I've had a couple of issues with the top that I've had repaired. But today, the exchange of the transmission fluid, 3 quarts. So after getting my car in the garage, jacking it up, safely putting jack stands underneath, I dropped the 3 bolts holding the majority of the splash pan down. I left 1 bolt in the passenger side rear just to make it easy when you go to put it back up. I still have plenty of room to get underneath there. That way it's just easier to go back in when you're all done after doing your job. So I'm going to use a pump today to remove the fluid. It connects to the battery, and I got a container to measure the exact amount, and the exact amount will go right back in it. So the first thing you got to do is access the transmission tube. And from up top, for me, it was nearly impossible because they had it right directly underneath this wiring harness, which is bolted to the motor there. I couldn't get my hand down in there between the main computer and the fan shroud. So I found out going underneath the vehicle, I could see it more clearly and I could access it a whole lot better. There, once underneath of it, and I'm going to show you here in 2 seconds, I could get my hands on the dipstick, remove it so I could insert a tube and drain the fluid. Here's a good angle here where you're going to see the tube and the transmission dipstick. Look at that, right underneath that wiring harness. The dumbest thing I've ever seen. Why they would do that is beyond me. At least let people have the opportunity to check their fluids. I love this car. I love all of it, but this is dumb.
So it took me, once I was underneath there, I had to look at a couple of different angles of getting this out. You have to forcibly push with 2 fingers that wiring harness, while it takes you another finger to pry that up. That's with the metal clip that holds it in place, bent back so it's not locking. So overall, not too difficult. Okay, so I'm ready to get underneath, see if I can attach the hose into the transmission tube to take 3 quarts out. So I've got my little step stool here. Check out my container, which I zip tied because I can't stand out here and hold it by myself. The drainage tube from the pump I stuck down through the filler neck, so that's halfway in there. And I'm going to crawl underneath and see if I can work that in there, down in there.
So 2 things. You can actually feed the tube to remove the fluid from underneath or from up top. After the cap was removed off of the tube, I could see the tube a lot clearer from above, and I was able to easily snake in the tube that would extract the old transmission fluid right down in there. Had no difficulty at all getting in there. The difficulty was removing the dipstick because it was crammed in there between that wiring harness. So once I've snaked it down the tube, all was left to do was to turn my pump on and watch the fluid come out. And like I said, I was just looking to remove 3 quarts, which I do every now and then, and just add fresh fluid into it. And the process overall wasn't that bad. But the main thing was this. I had to go underneath the vehicle. I had to jack it up high enough, get it on jack stands to actually access that, to remove it. Once it was removed, everything was pretty much streamlined, pretty easy.
So I got 3 quarts out, pumped out. It's pretty dirty. Doesn't smell burnt. I got 3 quarts, just shy of 3 quarts. And I'm gonna put 3 quarts in. So I ran the tube back down into the abyss. You can see it right there. So it actually enters right behind that wiring harness. But you could snake it. Once you do it a few times, you can get there relatively easy. If the computer wasn't there, it'd be a piece of cake. Your hand could fit right down in there, but that's a very narrow entrance. So I went ahead and I snaked the tube in my funnel, and I'll pour it in as such. So that's the story. So the best way to do this is to jack the car up front, drop the splash pan, access the dipstick for the transmission, remove it. Then you can snake your tube down into that tube. Pretty easy. You can go ahead and pump out however much you want and easily fill it back up. I went back underneath the vehicle once again to put the cap back on securely, put the splash pan back up, and that's it. So end of story. So I do 3 quarts every probably year and a half or so. I've never done a complete drain and fill. Like I said, I bought the car used. It had about 90,000 miles on it. So I did know the history at that time and was a little reluctant to change all of the fluid for obvious reasons. Hope this video helps. Have a good one.